PPT doesn't. All right. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity. I'm very fortunate to share our work with you today. And so I just want to take a moment and say that drones have wide range of applications. So let's say from surveillance to reconnaissance to payload taking. So and in that, several countries have taken advantage. And we have been talking a lot about US, China, and now smaller players have also made a huge difference. And so when we talk about defense drones, there are larger UAVs which have taken decades to build. And so we are not there yet as a country, but we are slowly getting there. So the point of this slide was to give an idea that to build such a technology, it takes a long time and also large amount of resources. And they run into hundreds of millions. But when it comes to drones, it's not just the larger UAVs that make smaller drones that you use for recreational purpose can also cause a lot of damage. So this Russia and Ukraine war, Chinese drones that we use for recreation, just take pictures in weddings have been actually used, and then now US is banning China from supplying such drones to Russia because it's really causing the damage. So when it comes to India, there are several players in India, and you'll be very happy to know there are more than 200 startups in India that focus on drones. So drones is such a large opportunity when it comes to the market size, and that's why I think it's the right time for drone community to grow. And they can be from heavy payload to small drones. There are a wide variety of drones, and that's why there's a space for almost everyone to build this technology. And it can't be addressed by one entity, whether it's Reliance or Adani, and these groups are already present in this domain. So why is it a good time for India to build drones, but also why it's also a challenge? So if you have noticed, I labeled my presentation as fun and frustration of building hardware technology. The fun part is it's the right time to build. The frustration is that when it comes to electronics, semiconductors, India do not have any capability. And there is a huge deficit of 50+ billion dollars. We are pretty much importing everything when it comes to smallest of electronic component. And so with all these constraints, we started our journey from IIT Delhi in 2016. And so we felt that swarm technology made sense because it was something new that India did not have. And swarms don't have application just in defense, but they have application across the board, whether you talk about surveillance, transport, disaster management, or entertainment. So this is where we started. We were initially optimizing the individual drones, increasing the range and the payload. This is a picture we took at Tawang border near China, and a drone was flying very near to the border and trying to supply something to the soldiers hitting there. And here is the small clip of the 10 drones that we first made in 2018 that flew from IIT Delhi. And this actually put us on the map. And because building a swarm technology takes a lot of intelligence. So you need computer vision, you need networking protocols, and you need swarming algorithms. And it really takes a long time and also skill set to build a drone swarm. And we have been very actively demonstrating this capability to Indian Army, Air Force, and we took this to Pokhran in 2019, and that's where we learned our first very hard lesson. When you assemble the systems, they may not perform as well in Indian situations. So after coming back from Pokhran, we realized that we need to do something, and in a while I'll just come to that. But in the meanwhile, I want to just show you another clip to show that you might see a small drone. It's a part of the swarm. It's detecting a tank, and it's hitting the tank there. So such kind of capabilities, a lot of groups like us are developing, where you can save the soldier life and save also on time. And our group is now recently also involved in building a smaller drone that you just carry in your hand and throw, and it can give you the situational surveillance. And this project is funded by government. It will take around a year to materialize. Coming back to the story of Pokhran, after coming back, what we realized is that assembling may not take us far. We took a step back, and we started realizing what is it we can do to make this completely Atmanirbhar operation, or how can we make it completely not dependent and reliable technology. So what we did is we built the entire electronics which we were previously importing, let's say from Switzerland, China, and America, and that's why those systems were not performing as well. So we made our own flight controller, motor controller, and precision GPS. It took us 2 years. We used this COVID time really well. We stayed on campus during the COVID time, and we built the entire drone in-house. So the drone is built indigenously, completely, the design, hardware, and the software. And because you're building locally, so now you're empowering local vendors also to participate in your journey. And so we started miniaturizing the system, miniaturizing the electronic component. That has been our expertise. And with that capability, fortunately, Ministry of Defense gave us an opportunity, and they asked us if we could connect 1,000 drones and make something out of it. And within 6 months, with the government help, we flew 1,000 drones from Rashtrapati Bhavan. And it made a big news. And this year, we connected 3,500 drones from Rashtrapati Bhavan. And this made India the second largest country in the world to have such capability. Moving forward, we really, thank you so much. So moving forward, we want to connect 7,500 drones, because the record is held by China with 5,200 drones. So we're hoping by Republic Day, we can break that record and make India truly a leader in this domain. Thank you so much. So what is that we have done differently? So we went to the basics and we started designing. So here is a real picture of the GPS that we have built in our lab. And in that firmware and the connecting protocols are all written by us, other than the chip, but the entire thing is built locally. And in this, you will be happy to know that we have also integrated NAVIC. So NAVIC are the satellites, Indian satellites that India has put. So now our GPS, in addition to the international satellites, we can also detect our own satellites. And hopefully, in some years, our drones and cell phones can completely run on the GPS system, the information that is given by these satellites from Indian systems. So we have been expert in miniaturizing, and this is the current status, that we are now integrating a lot of sensors on a single platform. Here is an example of X-shaped PCB, which has everything that a drone needs to fly. So it's very small, and because of that, now we will be able to miniaturize the system. And when you fly drones in large numbers, you actually accumulate a lot of data, and that allows your system to become better. And also, you can make a simulator, so without even putting your system in the air, you will be able to do things much more efficiently. And I would say in this, we have not been alone, though the journey has been hard, but we've had some very good partners along the path. So I would take special, I'll take a moment to give a special thanks to Indian Air Force, Army Design Bureau, IDEX, Ministry of Defense, Department of Science and Technology, and TDBA, and these are the bodies that made this possible for us to be at this stage right now. So I just want to say it's still a challenge to be working, and since I was asked to only focus on defense, so I would just, so when you work closely with defense, there's still something called NCNC, no commitment, no cost. What it means is you can demonstrate your technology to defense, but it's all on your cost, and especially from a smaller group, from startups, it's very difficult. So even if you make a technology, there is something called L1 that you have to work around, and all those systems make it very difficult for, that's why I say developer's dilemma. Because when you're a developer, you can't be focusing on all those aspects. So there's still challenges that need to be worked out. And this is the three of us in 2016, Tanmay, Anuj and I, started from IIT Delhi. And I'm very happy to share now our group is more than 88 strong and is making to build this new technology easier. Thank you so much, but we've been also very fortunate to get a lot of attention and awards and recognition from the country, and because of that, now we are able to become self-sustainable. And with that, I'll say thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Ahlawat, may I request you to stay on stage just for a quick chat with Meghna Deka, my colleague. She's the senior editor for Times Now. Meghna, over to you.
Thank you so much, Sumit. Dr. Ahlawat, I think I can speak on behalf of everyone here. We are completely in awe of your work. You may say this is the developer's dilemma, but for us, it's the spectator's pride. For Indians to see something like that. So big round of applause. Truly well-deserved what you've managed. I remember the first time I've seen your work on display was in 2022, over the Raisina skies, when we saw about 1,000 drones lighted up. You had the Tiranga in the skies, then you had the Mahatma portrait also, which came up. And then we said, wow, what a spectacle that is. And this year, you actually brought in 3,500. And which is why I'm so in awe of the work that you've done. And all of us are wondering, when you talked and you drew a parallel about a flock of birds, they're also communicating with each other. Last thing we need is drones crashing into each other. So how do they communicate? How do they engage with each other? And what's very important, as you were telling Maruf, they're also making decisions. What is human interference and what is the level of human interference which is required in a drone swarm?
So actually it's a lot of hard work. What you see, 10 minutes of flight and the formations behind that, there is, if you talk about on site, it literally on Rashtrapati Bhavan, our team was for a whole 1 month. And you practice, and so let me get to the software part of it. So we do not just put the swarm in the air and start running them. So we first create an animation, create files, and we run them through a simulator. So the simulator decides if there is a collision or not. If there is a collision, we change the path and recreate the animation. Then only we take the files and put them in the air. And so now the second question on communication. So when you talk about drone light shows kind of drones, the small drones, they are communicating to the base. The base is sending them corrections. So our GPS that we are very proud of, that I showed you, has a 10 centimeter accuracy. So a typical GPS that you see is a couple of meters. So when you are in meters, you could collide, right? Because you and I are like 2 meters apart. And so what this GPS corrections do is, it keeps constantly talking to each and every drone and tells where you are. And the drone also has a GPS. So this correction, and you're talking to satellites all the time, so then you really know where you are at an accuracy of 10 centimeters. So when we are flying them in the air, we keep them a meter apart. So we take a safety margins. So they can come less than a meter, but we are taking them a meter apart, and they themselves won't come in with this error.
What if one of them malfunctions?
They do. So because the technology, as I said, the drone technology is, and that's why you don't see drones coming from AIMS and delivering you medicines yet, because of this. So there are safety measures that we take, something called geofencing. So if I were to fly drones here, we make 3 layers of geofencing. So this drone, if they happen to cross this, they will be forced to land or crash. So they are not allowed to leave the perimeter that we have told them to.
Okay, so that's very interesting because the Indian Army, and they've gone on record saying swarm drones are niche and they are the disruptive technology when it comes to the next level of warfare, and a huge edge is expected to be given to our forces when we use swarm technology to the extent that it actually has the aptitude of being used. So what is the kind of surveillance drones that you're working on? I believe you're working on disposable drones as well.
Yes.
What is that and why is that important?
So what we are working is situational surveillance drone, a drone small, maybe just 6 inches tall. And the idea is to you just take a drone. So let me take a step back. And when you think of a drone, you need a remote, you need to operate it. And that's a big headache. Like if I give you a drone, I have to teach you how to fly and all that. And that's been a challenge for any operator. So the challenge, what we are addressing is now build a drone that doesn't require any flying like that. So what you can operate it through your cell phone or from a tablet. So we have made the operation easy. So anybody who can operate a cell phone will be able to operate the drone. Now the drone. The drone is very small. It's going to be fitted with the thermal camera and a daylight camera. And you throw the drone and it will give you surveillance situation. But then you'll ask, why do you need this fancy? Why do I need to throw the drone? Right? You can just leave the drone. So the drone is designed specifically for armed forces which are in difficult situation. So they are firing a gun and if they really need to see what is happening behind the wall. So the drone will be tagging on the dress and they just throw it. And now immediately they can put the tab down and immediately see what is happening and the drone has capability to come back.
And it's interesting, you're talking about the surveillance, but then the aptitude of a drone being used in warfare, one would wonder, are you also developing kamikaze drones? Can they actually zero in, lock in on a target, destroy it, annihilate it, and return?
Yes, absolutely, and that's very exciting. And if you remember the one video clip that I showed, so we made, these are called kinetic strike drones. So they work in a swarm, they can come up to from 3 kilometers and they have a computer vision on them. So they can identify, in this case we had identified a tank. So they will not hit anything but tank. So you can feed anything else and machine learning tools, you can tell that you need to strike a building or strike a human or something. In that case, that's what we told them to strike a tank, and they found the tank and they struck it with an error of 1 meter.
And how much of payload is possible to be carried by one drone, which are the bigger sizes that you've made?
So the one we have made is we are playing around with 1 kg payload. We are not venturing into bigger drones. So most of our drones are limited to 1 kg payload in addition to camera and other things.
It's interesting because we've been discussing, and this is something that Maru's of course spoken about, how far can a drone travel? Can it cross a border?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are drones, and as I said, there are 200 startups which are working on drones. So some drones can go up to, so the larger drones that I showed, their range are in 200, 300 kilometers, Bayraktar or the Predator drones. So they run into hundreds of kilometer range, but they are not operated by battery. The one I showed you, they're operated battery operated. The ones you have with fuel operated. So there are also drones which can refuel other aircrafts.
Wow. And it's important for us to point out, unfortunately I've been told that we're running out of time, but we can use it for Kisan drones.
Yes.
We can use it for fertilizers. It's not just about that. In fact, the Prime Minister once said, flying a drone should be akin to riding a bicycle. Everyone will be able to do that. When will that happen?
So good news is that in agri-drone, India has made a huge progress. We are not one in that sector, but there are like close to 100 startups just on agri. And so they are catering to farmers across India, north to south. And mostly, just 1 second, pesticide spray is what they've been used for. Why pesticides is because when you spray by hand, pesticides irritate your skin, it's really bad for your health, but when you do it with the drone, it actually saves
so it saves the farmers, and they can be cancerous if you are in touch with the pesticides. You are actually able to save the lives of farmers and ensure their health, and that's very important. So finally, I need to wrap it up, but one quick promise I would need from you, Dr. Ahlawat. And here we have all the top bosses of Times Network, we have have all the bosses of WhatsApp. Next time when we are going to collaborate with WhatsApp and NIMES network comes together, are we going to ensure that we don't have these lights or these drips and we are going to have drones and technology doing it?
We'll try, certainly.
We'll hold you to that. Dr. Ahlawat, everyone. Loud.
Thank you, Dr. Ahlawat, and thank you, Meghna, for that.